the boy who said no to school. There once was a boy named Daniel who hated mornings. Every morning, his mother would gently shake his shoulder. "Daniel, it's time for school." And every morning, Daniel would pull the blanket over his head. "I'm not going," he would mumble. "School is boring. I don't need it." At first, it was just once a week, then twice, then almost every day. Daniel didn't like reading because the words felt heavy in his head. He didn't like math because the numbers made him feel small. Some kids laughed when he read out loud. Instead of asking for help, Daniel decided something else. He decided school was the problem, so he stopped going. At first, staying home felt amazing. He watched television, he played games, he walked around the neighborhood while other kids were in class. He felt free. No homework, he smiled to himself. This is better. But days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. His friends stopped knocking on his door. They were busy with school, projects, sports, and new friendships. When they talked about science experiments and class trips, Daniel felt like a visitor in their lives. He laughed like it didn't matter, but inside, it did. One day, Daniel's mother sat at the kitchen table with tears in her eyes. "Daniel," she said softly, "if you don't go back to school, things will become very hard." "I'll get a job," Daniel said proudly. "I don't need school." But getting a job wasn't easy. He was too young for most work. The small jobs he could get didn't pay much. When he grew older and applied for real jobs, people asked questions. "Did you finish school? Can you read this form? Can you calculate this total?" Daniel struggled. The words he had avoided now stood in front of him like locked doors, and he had no key. Years passed. Without education, jobs were short and money was tight. Daniel moved from one small room to another. Sometimes he didn't have enough to eat. Sometimes he slept on friends' couches. And one winter night, after losing another job because he couldn't fill out paperwork correctly, Daniel found himself sitting alone on a cold sidewalk. Snow began to fall. He watched children in warm coats walking home from school, laughing, holding books against their chests. Books. He remembered how he once thought they were useless. Now, they looked like treasure. Daniel pulled his jacket tighter around himself and whispered something he had never said before. "I wish I had listened." That night became the hardest lesson of his life. The next morning, Daniel walked into a small community center. His hands trembled. I want to learn," he said quietly. He joined adult education classes. It wasn't easy. He felt embarrassed at first, but this time he didn't run away when things felt difficult. He asked for help. He practiced reading. He stayed late to understand math. Slowly, something changed. The words no longer looked like enemies. The numbers no longer made him feel small. He began to stand taller. Years later, Daniel found steady work. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because he chose not to give up on learning. Daniel's story is not about being bad. It is about avoiding what feels hard. School is not always fun. Sometimes it feels frustrating. Sometimes you feel embarrassed. Sometimes you want to quit. But education is not just about homework and tests. It is a key that opens doors to choices, a key that keeps you warm on cold nights, a key that builds confidence. And once a door closes, opening it again can be much harder. The moral, running away from challenges today can create bigger challenges tomorrow. Facing them bravely, even when they're hard, builds a stronger future.